And today I have David Staub here with me on Zoom. He's from a different state and we're chatting. And I'm just going to allow David to introduce himself and tell everybody what he does and his background.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and chat a little bit. And I'm excited for you to get this podcast up and rolling. That's so special when authentic voices really start putting stuff out there. So really appreciate the opportunity with it. I'll give you my story in like a very short nutshell. This is summarizing probably like 15 years, and we can dive into whichever parts you'd like. But I obviously now I'm on the plant medicine path working with ayahuasca, but polar opposite upbringing. Grew up really militant, actually. My dad was in the Marine Corps. I was groomed for the military. Was enlisted in the Marine Corps for a short period. Got an appointment to Virginia Military Institute and did all this like military type of path. And really quick funny thing, I pulled a bunch of pranks my junior year in college, and I ended up getting suspended for some pranks that I pulled. Found door-to-door sales and actually fell in love with that very young. The connection, just connecting with people. Went back, finished college, did not go the military route. Moved up to New York City to get up in the startup scene. That's when the addiction stuff started happening. So I had a lot of abandonment wounds as a child, and I didn't realize that until I was out of this militant conforming thing, and this freedom started coming into my life, doing really well financially, living in New York City, and then all this freedom. And that's when all this, I had like a lot of addictive stuff come up, whether it was alcohol, substances, um, and I tried everything, the worldly ways to heal from the addiction stuff, and nothing was working. And the root in the abandonment wounding was from seeing like a lot of infidelity as a child, and that creates really deep levels of abandonment, which is really going to tie into the root of narcissism that we're going to talk about a little bit later, which is what I work with now, helping people with that. Now, that's when my path really shifted. So, two parts of my path really took off here at the same time. One, the partner that I was married to for almost a decade came into my life. She had a severe amount of about 7 autoimmune diseases while I was going through my addiction stuff. And we tried everything and nothing worked. We were guided to ayahuasca. So, my ayahuasca path started right when I attracted this partner. And I'm talking about this partner, and this is not in a judgmental sense at all, but just to give you the facts of it. I was super naive, no boundaries, didn't even know what a boundary was. Thought everyone has a good heart and good intentions like I do. A lot of people pleasing stuff was still there from abandonment. Didn't even start my healing journey of that. So I attracted which I later, many years later, found out and discovered, and was an incredible learning experience. But I attracted a very intelligent, high level, covert, narcissistic partner. Really, really like spiritual narcissism and just really, really intelligent. So I didn't know that at the time. But these two paths started at once. One was her heal. We were guided to ayahuasca. And what I will say, what really shifted me right from the start with ayahuasca was she had all these autoimmune diseases, and that medicine went back and had her, and I didn't know anything about this world yet, had her process the suppressed sexual trauma as a child. So in the period of like, not trying to quantify how ayahuasca works, we can talk a lot about ayahuasca as the podcast goes on, but over the period of about a year and a half of working with it, she healed all the symptoms of every autoimmune disease. It was
Oh,
all rooted in suppressed sexual abuse, a lot of sexual abuse. In that specific case, those autoimmune diseases were rooted in suppressed sexual abuse. So as I saw this, I was like, what is this medicine? And I dove deeper into it. And I did have a calling the first time I sat with it, but man, I had so much self-doubt. I'm like, I'm a white country boy from Oklahoma. There's no reason I should be even thinking about that. But I got blessed. There was an indigenous teacher. His name was Master Shaman Danilo from Colombia. And he took me under his wing. He saw something in me way before I did. So I did not believe in myself at all in the beginning. Way too much self-doubt, way too much, just it didn't make sense. But he saw something in me. He believed in me. So he started taking me under his wing. I started training with him in Colombia, went out to the Amazon, went to Colombia, met with his teachers, went to Mexico doing training. I flew him out to the States to start helping people here. And he just really started showing me all these ways of working deeper with the medicine. So while this was happening, I was in this marriage. And again, long story short, most people that know me now, I have this content out that I'm growing now. I had a bit of an empire built. We did international retreats in Costa Rica, Belize, Italy, Colombia, huge center in Texas, about 400,000 followers, top podcast. It was a major, this top podcast, but nobody knew I was getting treated so shitty on the inside. The outside looked great. Everything looked great. And the healing work was amazing. You know, there's all these, and I'm not trying to gaslight or invalidate the experience of being with a narcissistic partner, but I grew so much in ways I never could have grown, with presence, with patience. And it ended up being this factor in my path with ayahuasca that really, and hundreds of ceremonies in the Amazon and working with my teachers. But while I was like being neglected and treated this ways, it grew me substantially. And then to bring it kind of home here to where we're at now, I'll never forget the conversation with God, which is just my own unique experience of this intimate relationship I've created. And once I saw it for what it was, once you see narcissism for what it is, there's no one seeing it. And I looked back and there was like 3 times I tried to leave and I kept getting sucked back in. But when I left, God presented the opportunity where I could leave, but I left with literally a backpack of clothes, my dog that is still with me, a guitar, and a bottle of ayahuasca. So humbling. I left it all.
Wow.
Let her have everything. Left it all, and I literally went to live with my mom in one of her side rooms, and then moved out to the Amazon jungle to continue training there, and then to kind of bring it home to where we are now over the next couple years. I attracted, never expected this to happen, but the most loving, conscious, polar opposite energy. And it's just the most beautiful, patient, loving thing. So, and as that happened, I started, I got to say, not that ayahuasca is about speed, but living in the Amazon for 4 months, working with an elder every a couple days a week with ayahuasca, sped up this process of seeing and integrating and healing from all these narcissistic experiences. So I took those lessons and working with Casey, because she had narcissistic experiences too, started putting together these things to help people through the process of integrating the lessons, attracting healthy love, and not self-sabotaging healthy love when it comes. Because when you first get healthy love after something toxic, the lot of red flags go off, and Casey and I have been able to work in such healthy ways to allow a process of really expanding actual healthy love. And I serve the medicine. I've been serving the medicine now for about 5 years in the States, started an entheogenic church. So Casey and I facilitate private ones in Texas. And I still take people out to meet my teachers multiple times a year. I'm out in the Amazon.
To
So that's what I do now.
Colombia? Where?
In Colombia, in the Putumayo of
Colombia.
the Amazon jungles. That's
Yeah.
where we are now.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been to Mexico in the jungle, and I've been to Costa Rica, not for medicine, but those are the places I've been to, but not Colombia. And I would love to go to Colombia
It's
to
so
experience this.
beautiful. I love the
Yeah.
people. The culture is amazing, and I've been
Yeah.
so blessed to meet teachers that have just kind of welcomed me. Really, once they saw that I was like genuinely intentioned, because there's a lot of protection around their medicine, as there should be. They're
Mm.
so loving, so welcoming. Like they really are.
Wow.
Once they see that you're good of heart, they're amazing people.
Yeah, and by the way, just as when you started talking about your master, that literally, like in the beginning of the conversation, I got goosebumps.
Mm,
And this usually happens to me when there is a soul that is just so high and so
mm.
special. And I was just like trying to shake this off. I was like, this is not like, this is
Aw.
crazy. This individual is so powerful and so advanced,
Mm-hmm.
whoever he is.
And for
Yeah.
him to like, it boggles my mind now, like this white boy that just started with ayahuasca, like for him to be like, no, I'm going to show you some stuff. Wow, you have
Yeah.
heart. You're willing to do the work. It opened his whole culture up to me. And it was a really beautiful, it started everything. I have so much
Yeah.
respect for Danilo. Master Shaman Danilo is his name.
That's amazing. And that's what happens when you have people that can actually see you through your soul, and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just your presentation and
And
not
I
just
couldn't
who
do
you
that for
are
myself.
as a person, but they can actually see through you on
Yeah.
a soul level. I think it's amazing. You definitely were fortunate, right?
Yeah. It was a blessing. It was a blessing for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So One of the reasons why I kind of asked you if you could do this, have this conversation, was a couple of days ago you posted something about entities,
Mm,
and I find that this is a subject that not many people want to address and talk about. It's one of those things that if you know, you know, and if you
100%.
don't,
Oof, I got chills.
right, you're just kind of you stay away from it. You get scared
Uh-huh.
of it. You don't want to deal with it. You don't want to go there. You change the subject. You'll avoid it, and that's fine too, because we're not all on the same path.
Mm-hmm.
We don't all have the same level of what's the term? We haven't all evolved in the same way. There are
Mm-hmm.
individuals that are more intuitive, they're more in
Mm-hmm.
tune with the spirit world. They
Mm-hmm.
can see things, they can hear things, they can even shift
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, they
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
send entities away. And yeah, but not everybody has that ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is for, I would love to talk about a little bit about this because I know that there are many people that are just curious about
Mm-hmm.
it. And I personally talk about it a lot because I've seen this in ayahuasca ceremonies. I don't serve ayahuasca. I have drank
Mm-hmm.
ayahuasca 3 times within the
Mm-hmm.
past 3 years, once a year. And ayahuasca is not something that I use regularly. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that I go to every weekend. For me, it's sacred medicine. And, I do a lot of integration between, and I do other things too. So, however, within the 3 times that I have sat with ayahuasca, I've definitely noticed entities. I've seen them come and go. I've seen them shake people up. I've seen people reacting in certain ways that's just beyond understanding. I can also see how they can delude people's minds in a
Mm-hmm.
way. People will be attacked. They're not even going to know how and why. And
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have my own experience that I would love to share as well, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
not right now because I want to give you back some mics so you can talk about your perspective. But I would definitely love to also share that experience, with my last journey and what happened there with entities. So what are your thoughts about um, working with entities, dealing with them in a ceremony, let's say?
Yeah. So, and before diving into this, for anyone listening, this is just my perspective and experience of it. It's one of those things that's really difficult to fully understand until you experience it. But I'm going to give you what my truth is. And this isn't something that has to be anyone else's truth, but I have found this to be very real time and time again. Everyone has their own path. Everyone has their own unique path. There's not a better or worse path. You just have to find your alignment with your path. You do that based upon your commitment to your own inner work, and in my opinion, your establishment with the creator of whatever that unique experience is to you, some kind of higher power, and your own inner work, and that'll align you with your path. And this came up really early on my path, actually from my first teacher, because he had us, we all have spiritual gifts. Everyone has spiritual gifts. Most people's in the West lie dormant because of the energy of suppressed emotions, suppressed traumas, um, unwillingness to be open to the very real spiritual realm that's around us. A lot of fear conditioning that's pretty intentional. That's a whole nother topic. But they lie dormant. But everyone has them. And one of mine that came out early that I did not understand, but Nilo really coached me through it because he had a similar one, was the ability to sense them and pull them into my vessel. Now, a lot of times ayahuasca does that on its own for people. And there, sometimes you know it, sometimes you don't. But there is ways, if you worked with someone that knows how to do this, that you can like begin working in unison. You're still the instrument. You are the instrument. It is not you doing it, but you can be a more effective instrument for IO if you can get out of your own way in the depth of your spiritual work. You can be a really effective instrument for ayahuasca to help remove them. Now, what I want to talk about entities too, that is really important for those that are open to understanding these, is they feed on your insecurities. They know your wounds. How do they enter? I can't tell you all the ways, but I will tell you some. Sexual abuse, There's a portal. Sex is sacred. It is the number one most important. I do a lot of men's work for guys. I lead a lot of men's groups. It is my opinion, the number one energy to get under control as a man. You have to have, or at least begin the path of mastering that energy, to not allow it to determine your choices, because it is the number one energy used to control and deter men off of their path of divine masculinity. It is a very real energy, and anytime you engage in that, it is sacred. There's a portal that is open. If someone has attachments, there's a very good chance they will attach. And I'm not saying any of this for fear. This is purely for awareness. And the more you dive into your spiritual path, one of my teachers, the way they described it was, he's one of my indigenous teachers, if you light a match in the middle of the jungle, what happens? Well, the bugs fly to that match. The more you grow and evolve, you're a little bit more on the radar for some of these things. It becomes, with responsibility, with power and with evolving and growing comes a responsibility that you have. And in my opinion, again, speaking about God, brings you the responsibilities based upon what you're ready for. And if in everyone's unique path, if the path is working in that world, it's important to understand this. They attach through sexual abuse, also alcohol. When you black out, that is not blacking out. That is a possession. That is your vibration lowered enough, your inhibitions lowered enough to something can come into your field and you will not remember, because there's something else that is working your conscious. And then it goes, you have a conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. You have a physical body, an energetic, and a spiritual body. It seeds back out of the physical into the energetic, and it'll come up with triggers being heightened, and it knows your weak points. So it will feed on wounds. It will feed on insecurities. It does not, and they don't want unions. Unions are the most powerful form of union, becoming one with two. So union is the most powerful form of spiritual work. So they don't want the union to happen. So these entities feed on wounds. They feed on insecurities. They feed on these things if any of these attachments have happened. So most people aren't as aware of it, and they can be removed. There's nothing like that is chronic or detriment. I'm not saying it's the only way at all, but just because it's my path and my experience, ayahuasca is hyper effective in removing those kind of entities and those things. Because what they want to create is confusion and chaos. They thrive in confusion. Confusion and even in ceremonies early on in my training, one of the things, ayahuasca has taken me through so many different interesting training mechanisms that I didn't know were training. But a big part that I teach this thing called the path of mastery. If you follow like any of my work, it's called the path of mastery. And one of the first ones is being able to center in chaos and confusion, because confusion is where the mind will go to the fear if you're not really working on that centering aspect. So they like to create confusion. They like to create chaos. They thrive in that.
And clutter.
What's that?
Clutter.
Yeah. No,
a cluttered mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing better than a cluttered mind, because you could just hijack, whoever you're dealing with could easily just be taken over if they can't get their mind together and they can't align the mind with the heart and the body.
Mm-hmm.
So there's chaos, like you said.
For sure. And that's where they thrive. They thrive in that chaos. So it is a very real thing that people deal with, whether they're kind of in awareness of it or not. And a lot of people have different reasons they're called to ayahuasca. Some people it's unknowingly and when it comes to that, like there's a spiritual consent. There's a spiritual consent when you sit with ayahuasca or any of these medicines that you want a shift, you want to grow, you want to heal something, but a lot of it's not your awareness of why. Some people are called because they actually have some of those that they're not aware of to be released and purged. But ayahuasca is hyper effective at removing those. And they thrive too in areas where, like, and I'm not judging the actions of doing these things at all, but like they thrive in bars, they thrive in clubs, anything where there's like these substances that are like lowering the vibration. They feed on lust. They feed on they feed on these lower vibrational things that aren't like in alignment with your heart and your truth and your authenticity. So that's I know that was a lot, so I guess I'll
No,
stop
it's
there for now.
like you're totally like, I'm so aligned with everything that you're saying, and I agree with everything that you just said. What about, and I've seen this happen, so I'm gonna bring it up. I've seen people go to ayahuasca ceremonies and actually come back with entities attached to them. They'll come back with chaos. They'll come back with depression and anxiety. They'll come back with thoughts that's not theirs. They'll come back with this darkness that they don't know how it hit them. And it takes them days and sometimes months to really integrate it and understand what it is. And unfortunately, most people don't even understand at the end of the day. If they're not aware, if you're not aware of
Mm-hmm.
the idea of entity
Mm-hmm.
attachments, right? You end up, you kind of go into that aspect of, well, I just went to this space and the medicine showed me something harsh and now I'm depressed. So they kind of
Mm-hmm.
like just go straight from the medicine did this to me and that this is where I am now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've seen this a lot. I get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
calls, client calls, and in my community for people that know that I do this kind of work almost every week, and people will present with these symptoms, and I know right away it's an entity because I can
Mm-hmm.
also feel them now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've done, this is what I do. I do breathwork ceremonies. I
Mm-hmm.
work with cacao, and I do something called clarity breathwork. It's breath through the mouth for about an hour, and it has a psychedelic effect.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, things that come up, and there are traumas that may resurface. There are feelings in the body that we have stored, and all of that stuff can come up. And sometimes within the ceremony, I will see an individual or two that are really struggling with entities, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
even know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that kind of like affects the entire ceremony sometimes.
Sure.
So I am now really in the process of learning how to actually not just know about it, but like how do I actually help my clients and my participants, right, to be able to move through this stuff, and how do I, as a facilitator, because I do feel like it's my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Mm-hmm.
space that I'm creating, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't always have control over the space that we're in. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, I go into people's homes, and as much as I try to see videos before and make it fit and
Mm-hmm.
talk to the person and clear the space, and I have someone that clears spaces for me, you never know at the end of the day, you never know what may come
Mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm kind of like in the process of now learning what to do when this happens. I literally saw this 2 weeks ago. It happened in the ceremony, so I would love to
Yeah.
hear a little bit more about what are some of the things that you may do as a facilitator, maybe about your awareness of them or any particular techniques or anything that you might want to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's three things here I want to talk about. First, I'm going to start at the end, but it'll make sense when I go through this. So there's a really beautiful story. I forgot what book it was, but there's a book that talks about creation. It's in a story format, and it basically says when God created the first things, there were five angels. Then everything, all creation was created in music. It was all sounds and music, and with music, creation was created. Well, one of the five decided that he can sing better music than God's symphony. So one of the five started creating this distorted music that was just like disrupting this harmony because he was convinced he could do better. And then what God did every time that happened is he took the distortion and he made it into he tied it into a more beautiful part of the symphony. So, in that sense, one strong belief, everything, our core beliefs are really important to our experience. So, before going into my feelings about that, my thoughts, what I do, and some what I would consider good advice for people listening, I think integrating a really deep foundational core belief and just watering it that. And the Bhagavad Gita talks about this beautifully, by the way, it says it way better than I'm about to say it. But God uses even the bad stuff for good. There's a bigger plan, even when you're going through the shit, when it's like not going well. So keeping that in mind, there is a free will component There is, and I'm not saying I understand all this, but you have to kind of get comfortable with spiritual paradoxes.
Oh,
But there,
absolutely. Because if you're not comfortable, you can't do this kind of work.
uh-huh,
You
uh-huh,
just can't. You'll be
yep,
clueless, and then you're endangering everyone else that's in your
mm-hmm,
space. You
mm-hmm,
can't hold space
100%.
for people. You have to be able to weave through the darkness and the light. That's what happens in every journey.
Mm-hmm,
It's a
mm-hmm.
it's a big must, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So knowing that, one of the lessons I've found to people that go through that, there is a really instrumental lesson of discernment before you go into these spaces that's really important. Tapping deeply into your intuition, tapping into the little signs, the little whispers that you'll get in certain situations. The more you can tap into your intuition, and not to get too much into this right now, this is only my opinion, but there's a divine blueprint for the masculine and feminine. Men have intuition, don't get me wrong, but there's a very deep, effective, clear intuition in the woman. The womb is a portal to the other. There's a different kind of spiritual connection in that portal. So one of the intentional processes that the systems of the world try to do is disconnect women from trusting their intuition, but it's so sharp, it's so effective and felt in the body. So one thing to know is keep going into that intuition and that discernment. If someone's out there did go through something like that, look at anything you could have seen or any red flags to make sure that lesson doesn't repeat again. Now, some things to look for if you're going into any space is anyone that is facilitating, and I'm talking specifically with ayahuasca, that's all I can speak about. No matter what, the person facilitating should be willing to do an actual Zoom call with you so you can see their eyes, so you can meet them face to face, so they take intentional time with you. There's a lot of people that are doing service to self. You don't want to fall into any situation with these medicines that it's service to self, not service to others. It has to be service to others, and you can feel that. You can
Yes.
feel that's not no matter what people are saying. And talk about narcissism later. A lot of people can say the right things, but you can feel authenticity. You can feel truth, and asking them what kind of protective measures do they do, what lineage have they worked with. Those are little things you can do. For me, I was blessed to my second teacher. He does a really deep cleansing. So, well, let me go to the ceremony itself. A well-trained shaman is going to be cleansing the space very consistently. Now, what I've seen used most effectively, again, just in my experience in the Amazon and the Putumayo, the tribes I work with, they work with two resins, copal and peyote. They mix copal and peyote together. I haven't found peyote out here, so I have like canisters of it that I always bring home from the Amazon. And that is a deeply cleansing thing that keeps the space cleansed. And there's little things too, like if a woman's on her what they consider the moon cycle, putting tobacco around that because it's a really powerful energy. And just for anyone that has worked, there's certain tribes that don't have women sit in that, but people that do, the tobacco around the space is essential. That's very protective for those type of things.
Yeah.
After the ceremony, I've I don't like to speak in absolutes, but I really strongly feel there should be a cleansing ceremony. It doesn't have to take long, but you get everyone around a fire outside, feet grounded, and you go through and you cleanse every person. You can use holy water. You should have a white. There's different things you to cleanse each person fully, and then direct them to take a shower or something after to fully cleanse anything that's happening. So those are some things in ceremony that are really,
Right.
really important that can help keep that space clean.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely more of the spiritual, physical aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
How about looking at it in terms of there's a reason this energy is here. There's a
Mm-hmm.
reason this ancestor is coming through, whether
Mm-hmm.
they have good intentions or bad intentions, or they're just, hovering somewhere and they see an empty body and they just want to enter, or actually they have a message for the person, or maybe even from higher realms. I'm not sure. So how about actually working with the energy, working with the message that's
Mm.
coming through? What do you think about that idea?
You mean like after it's happened, if they're
Not
like,
after, actually during. Because a lot of times when I see energies coming through, like the other day I usually serve hape
mm,
during my ceremonies before the breath work because I find that it really opens the body up and prepares the person like in an amazing way for breath work. And as I was going around, serving, I sit by this woman. And as I sit by her, I usually just sit in front of the person, tune into their energy, and taking out my hape. And all of a sudden, tears start rolling down my face, and I have no idea why. So I'm starting to tune into myself. I'm taking time. And all of a sudden, her grandmother comes through, maternal grandmother comes through, and she wants her to know certain things. So I kind of didn't know where to go with it because it wasn't an ayahuasca ceremony. She wasn't prepared for it. She's not that conscious yet. And I didn't want to freak her out. So I kind of dealt with it within myself. I kind of did a little bit of a clearing. I acknowledged the grandmother. Thank you for your showing up. Let's just pray. Let's both of us, and I'm talking to the grandmother in my head. Let's both of us pray that this woman is going to go exactly where she needs to go today in her breath work, that, and I kind of just like quickly moved away from her afterwards. And it's interesting what came up for her during the breath work. Afterwards, she started sharing that her maternal grandmother, who was a Holocaust survivor, came through, and she was coaching her, and she was holding her hand, and she was giving her love. And this woman happened to be going through very difficult times right now in her life. And she said it was a very profound experience for her. So these things happen. Spirits come in, ancestors come in, and they have messages, and there's a reason, right?
So I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about the malevolent ones, keeping the malevolent ones out. But no, first of all, I want to say too, that's amazing that it takes a lot of deep inner work and knowing yourself to allow that to come in for you. Yes. That's pretty advanced. That's really amazing.
And I'll tell you what really opened me up. It's really a very funny but like hard story for me to share. About 6.5 years ago, I moved out of my old house. We bought a new house. And we were supposed to be renovating this new house. It was supposed to take 6 months to complete. So in the meantime, we were kind of like between houses. So we decided to just rent a house in the neighborhood. And we rented this house, this big old house. And the first night, I'm sleeping in the house, and there's things talking to me. And I'm like, what the heck? And it was so intrusive, and it was so scary for me. I did not know what to do with it. Cut the story short, I did not sleep for 3 months straight. Until I found my someone, this lady in Las Vegas. And she told me that she pretty much just acknowledged everything I felt and seen. And she said to me, it looks like your third eye is opening. It looks like you're connected to the spirit world. And she gave me some ideas how to protect myself, certain prayers to say before. So I'm Jewish, so there's certain prayers that we say before we go to bed are supposed to kind of protect the soul from getting attacked. And I kind of started with the prayers, but then as I went along, I realized that I really do have this. So I was feeling things, I was hearing things, I was getting messages, I was being shaken awake at night, literally, physically and energetically. And so I kind of had to learn. I had no other choice. Because I thought I was going crazy.
For sure.
Yeah. I was like, do I just admit myself to a clinic?
Right.
Yeah. And that's what got me started. And then the more I meditated, and then the medicine made it even like stronger. And now, because I'm doing this work, I'm kind of opening myself up even more, because these energies are desperate. They want to give messages. They want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged. They're a part of the person, right? Yeah, our ancestors are part of who we are.
And so the beneficial ones, that's beautiful. And my personal experience and thoughts around like if and when that happens. And that was actually one of the messages early on from ayahuasca that she gave me after going through a pretty wild challenge. She said she'll answer any one question with a sacred truth. I said, how to become a great teacher. And she said, teach them to go to the silence of their own mind for their answer. So it's really the silence of your mind and connecting to yourself. And I really resonate with the breathwork piece. That's something my wife and I do almost daily, is holotropic breathwork, even just for 10 minutes. There's so much distraction going on in the mind. And
Yes.
doing that creates that natural DMT, holding your breath. It calms everything down. So just practices of personally, anyone listening that wants to tune into those messages for themselves, it's in the silence of the mind. And I found breath work to be really beneficial. I'm a huge advocate of Hape too. It can just wipe everything out of the mind, just come right into your heart space. But finding some place
Heart
to really
space.
find
Mm.
silence and getting to within yourself to hear what that message is, hear what that guidance is, continuing with discernment, make sure it's of love, it's not of like fear or something like that. And yeah, just tuning in with silence with yourself. That's really the best way that I could say.
Yes, and I like what you just said about fear, because I think what happened to me was that in the beginning I was in so much fear. I was
Yeah.
shocked and I went into
Yeah.
fear. And the fear was what was actually feeding these entities. And I 3 months into it, I found out that there was an older man and his wife that actually died in the house. And
Oh, wow.
I think the wife had actually died in that room where I was sleeping.
Oh,
And
wow.
they had so much attachment to this house. And there had also been some kind of a conflict between them, because
Mm.
he was kind of like projecting all of that conflict onto me in a way so weird to I can't even like explain it now because it was a while back.
Mm-hmm.
But there was so much that he had not dealt with, that he was kind of like just kept projecting and projecting, and I was like, kind of like hearing it. I was seeing
Mm-hmm.
all of it. And when I turned to my landlord and I said, "What happened in this house?" She said, "Yeah, there was an old man and a woman and they passed away." And I said, "What was their marriage like?" And she said, "Well, he actually wrote a book about marriage."
Mm.
And I turned to her and I said, "Guess what? His marriage sucked."
Wow.
And she
Wow.
looks at me and she's like, "How do you know? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But that's what I was experiencing, really. And he was kind of like showing all of that to me. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, that's tapping into those abilities and gifts is just, it's a beautiful, consistent process because then it continues to expand the more you're like using it, not just for yourself, but in service too. That's awesome.
Yes, yes. The only thing is that we also have to, like you mentioned before, we have to keep in mind that the darkness is also a part of creation. Meaning
Totally.
God, just like he created the light, also created the darkness. And
Mm-hmm.
so I find that a lot of facilitators avoid this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Mm-hmm.
met so many healers, energy healers, even shamans, like even like real facilitators that are not willing to go into the darkness. They're not willing to acknowledge the fact that there is darkness, just like there is light, and that's
Mm-hmm.
this world
Evil
is
exists.
really a polar. It's a world of polarity.
Right.
Earth
Right.
is right. It's all about the opposites, light and dark.
Yeah, and that's what the Bhagavad
Yeah.
Gita talks about. It's so good. I love coming back to that because even evil does exist, and it's important to come to terms with that so you can deepen your discernment around it. But God does end up using it for good in some way. So long as the person is living ethically, in integrity and doing like they're true of heart, God uses it for good. Even if something like bad is happening, there's some kind of bigger plan that will end up working out in their faith for their growth. There's a really good creator. His name's Nico, and he made a whole post that was so beautiful.
Yeah,
And
I
it sounds,
follow him too.
oh,
I like
he's so
him too.
good.
Yeah,
He's
he's
my
really
favorite
amazing.
creator. He's my
Yeah.
favorite creator. And he said, it sounds harsh, but it's so true. God doesn't care about your happiness. He cares about your growth.
Yes.
God cares about the growth. So even those difficult, uncomfortable things, he uses that to help grow you, which is where in the Bhagavad Gita, when the Arjuna is talking to God, the names are slipping my mind right now, but he's like, "What about demons? What about demons? What are these things?" And he's like, "Who do you think created the demons?" He
Mhm.
uses them for good. So yeah, and being willing to look at both sides of it because there is a lot of just love and light community people out there that don't want to talk about those things or there's a lot of manipulation like the teaching we are all one. There's truth to that, there's foundational truth to that,
Yes.
but it's being used by a lot of people, especially with narcissistic tendencies, to basically put everything on the person and disregard the actual trauma people go through, disregard the challenge. And that kept me personally, when I was in that marriage, that belief is what kept me in there years longer than I would have been in, because I created this toxic belief in my mind that the suffering I was going through, the neglect I was going through, all this it was part of my purpose to go through that, because there was all this growth that was coming out of it. The healing, I was learning so much in ayahuasca. So I thought I just had to completely sacrifice my own personal romantic life, because there's like this growth, and it was just constant, and it just went deeper and deeper into self-abandonment. And it was all rooted in that belief that it's
Mm,
all on me. It's all 100% on me. Everything is my fault. Everything, I need to find something to shift in me constantly, rather than putting any onus on the other.
sure. Yeah. And there's a lot of self-reflection that's required to really see all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And go along with it.
Oh yeah.
And I see people getting stuck in healing crises for years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So I wanted to just share a little bit about what happened to me my last ayahuasca journey.
Yeah.
So what happened to me was that, and this is related to entities, that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
bringing this
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Sure.
So I was supposed to be going to the ceremony somewhere in upstate New York, and I was looking for a ride, and someone said, well, I'm going and I'm going from a certain place. Why don't you meet me in this place? And then we could just drive together. We could take a car service. You don't have to drive 3 hours. I was like, yes, amazing. I hate driving. I was like, I don't want to drive. And I also don't want to drive back by myself after the ceremony. So lo and behold, I don't know who this person is. I meet her. She's already in the car service. And as I sit next to her, she starts telling me how anxious she is, and she's always had anxiety and all kinds of stuff. And this is going on for an hour. And when people find out you're a therapist, of course, you're
Mm-hmm.
there to
Mm-hmm.
provide free therapy,
For
even if it
sure.
just means listening, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, you know what? I'm just sitting in a car. I'll just listen anyways, right? And then at some point, I started feeling really bad for her. And at some point, her grandfather came through, and the
Mm.
grandfather says, this is all my anxiety. She inherited
Wow.
everything from me. And there was some dynamic between her and her grandfather. I don't know exactly. And I didn't even want to get into it. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
going to the ceremony. I don't want this on me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there was that sense of, I feel bad for this woman, this young
Mm.
woman. She's lost, and she has no idea why she's being anxious all these years. And she's just telling me a story. So we get to the ceremony, and she's kind of like there, kind of next to me. And during the ceremony, I drink. Within half an hour, I am not in my body. I feel like I'm getting attacked.
Mm.
I couldn't discern with whom and what, because when you're under medicine, you can't always sit
Mm-hmm.
and meditate, right? The
Right.
medicine takes you over.
Right.
Yeah. So the medicine kind of took me over, and I started feeling tremendous amount of fear, which is not necessarily what I feel generally, because I don't have a lot of fear within me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that this is not, like, something is going on here. This is not my
Mm.
thoughts. This is not my stuff. It's kind of being played through me. I even like stepped away from the room, and I was like, I don't even want to be here. I put me in a different room. So I asked the shaman, can I go into a different room? And he said, sure, help yourself. There's a room. Went into the room. The night is over. I came home, and the whole week after that, I was in total darkness.
Mm.
I felt like I had been psychically attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't figure out why. And I finally call my psychic, whom I love, because she kind of like sees everything and she's able to clear everything. And she picks up, and she says, I see an older man wearing a baller hat, like a black baller hat.
Mm.
And I'm like, wait, what? Like, and then it started coming to me. So it started coming to me, this older man. I think he perished somewhere in a very tragic way, and he needs to have this hold on you now, and he's hooked onto you. And she's kind of like working on me. And I said, I know who this person is. I
Mm.
noticed right away it's her grandfather.
Wow.
And so I
Wow.
asked her, and I said, tell me, how did this person latch onto me?
Right.
And she said, through your empathy.
Wow. There was deep consent there through the empathy.
Through empathy. And
Wow.
she says to me, you are very empathic. You're in an empathic role all day long. This is what you do, but you have to hire your standards and you have to hire your
Hmm.
boundaries now.
Boundaries.
Because
Yep.
these entities are not, they don't always have the best in mind, and
No.
they can get through you through shame, fear, guilt, trauma, and empathy. And that's the
Hmm.
lesson I learned. So
Wow. I didn't know that.
I've been
I didn't know
working
that.
on that for the
Beautiful.
past 6 months or so.
Wow.
It's already been what, 6, 7 months.
That's new to me. That makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense, though. It's a deep form of emotional consent.
absolutely. And it's kind of like boundaries that are not necessarily kept strong, because this woman did not pay me to be her therapist.
Hmm.
She did not come and say, help me heal. She did not come and say, I need therapy. She had no boundaries. And I
Hmm.
got into her level. I
Hmm.
did not keep my boundaries up
Hmm.
as well as I should have,
Hmm.
right? And so that's how this individual got
Wow.
in. Yeah.
Wow.
Is
That's
that
wild. Yeah,
interesting?
I learned something new there. I did not know that. That's really,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what's interesting is that I also found that, I mean, I really don't want to talk about anyone in particular, but what I found was that there was no structure to the ceremony. I
Hmm.
found that the space wasn't really being held sacred. There
Mm.
was no boundaries there. So everything was just coming and going,
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep.
which
Yep.
is a big problem.
A big problem for sure.
Yeah.
And that happens, unfortunately, more often than people think with these
Yes.
medicines.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that the person that was facilitating is not aware himself
Mm.
of these things, and so he's not necessarily keeping the space guarded. And I saw that there was people coming in and out of the big room, where they have the
Oh,
ceremony room, and
no
people were coming
way.
in and out, and this person wants to drink ginger, and this person wants to chat with this friend,
No way.
and this
That's so
person wants to talk to
disorganized.
this person, and then there's mingling outside. And I was like, what is going on here?
That is so not secure. Wow. No,
Yeah.
I hate hearing stuff like that. That's, oh my gosh. Because then
Right. So
people go back
I
and
learned a lot.
yeah, people go
Yeah.
back and they think that's what ayahuasca is. And like, it's not a representation of an effective container. That's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to share that experience.
No, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm glad to kind of put some of this information out there and hopefully, anyone that's going through something or wanted more information on this kind of stuff can be, can gain value from it.
Yes. And so, how do people find you? Can you explain a little bit more about your services, what you offer at this point?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So one thing I want to mention that my wife and I are really excited about. So narcissistic abuse is something really close on our hearts because of what we both dealt with. We're doing a 6-week mastermind starting March 22nd on healing and spiritual expansion from narcissistic abuse. Not only heal and expanding from it, attracting healthy love, navigating, not self-sabotaging. It's 6 weeks. Casey and I do a live Zoom call every week. There's a
Mhm.
WhatsApp group for community support. And we made it totally donation based. Like there's no number too small. We
Wow.
want to just get the information out there. And I usually don't do that. My masterminds usually have a pretty high price on them. But Casey was like, and she made such a good point. People that are dealing with narcissistic stuff, sometimes their finances are screwed. So we made it donation based, and we already have like 15 people in it with good conversations happening. So anyone that is struggling or knows someone, please pass them over to me. It doesn't matter what number it is. We have one person paid $9. Like there's no number too small. We just want to create the community and give that offering. And we're going to record each call. So specifically with narcissism, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Of
My
course. Yeah. By
shaman.
the way, just so you know, I also kind of, this is my specialty too,
Oh, wow.
narcissism and codependency. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. I also
If
have
you,
my own personal journey with it, and it's something that I definitely help with, my clients with.
well, if you
Something
want
I'm
to
very
join it, I'm
passionate about
sure
as
that
well. Yeah.
people would love to learn from you too. It's going to be, Case
Yeah.
and I are leading
So
the Zoom calls, but it's collaborative.
of course. Can you send me a link to it
Yeah.
afterwards? And I'm going to try to put it on the podcast link.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
And
And
also if you have a website or you have other programs that you want to.
yeah, other than that, we facilitate ayahuasca. Casey and I do private stuff for people in Austin, and we also do retreats We're doing one last one in Salt Lake City, March 6th to 9th, and then the rest of them are all in Austin, Texas. And we only take small groups, really safe, effective container. And anyone that wants to go to the Amazon multiple times a year, I take small groups out to meet my teachers with the Inga to help
I
support them.
do. I'm in.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
One cool thing too that I appreciate so much about working with them in my years of working with the medicine, I've never seen a safe, ethical, well-run. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've never seen a safe, well-run, high-value ayahuasca retreat internationally for less than like I don't know 2,500 or something. They do it for
Wow.
1,480, $1,480, 7 days, all inclusive, food, lodging, and medicine, and like
Wow.
95% of it goes right to the tribes there. So it's really cost effective. Anyone's wanting an international safe thing, it's less than $1,500 for 7 days and everything. So definitely
Wow.
reach out. I'm happy to connect anyone that wants to sit with it. Part of my purpose is to be a bridge for people to experience it in a safe way in the States and bring people to my teachers that are just on another level over there. And yeah, my I have on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, but it's at
Yeah.
Shaman Stab on TikTok and Instagram.
Yes, definitely. We can definitely provide all of those
Cool.
links for whoever is interested. Yeah. Amazing. This has been so enlightening.
Hmm.
I learned so much. And I definitely would love to continue these conversations anytime you're ready. We can go even deeper into stuff if that, if that's something that you would consider.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely. And I had an awesome time too. I learned something too. That's really sticking with me, the consent from empathy. So thank you for that. And Casey's really well versed from a feminine perspective on healing and expanding from narcissism. So if you ever wanted to do a call on that, she would be amazing to
mm.
have.
Oh, wow. It's wonderful. Good to know. Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank
Keep
you.
on doing the great work.
Thanks, sister. I appreciate you. I'll
Yeah.
send you the flyer for
Thank
the
you.
donation based narcissism thing.
Yes, please. Okay.
You
Thank
have
you.
a good one.
You too.